Welcome everyone to Herald Christian Health Center's workshop on early childhood developmental milestones.
Bienvenidos a todos a nuestro taller de hitos de infancia, hitos de desarrollo de infancia de aquí de la clínica Herald Christian Health Center.
It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. John Tannous. He has been a pediatrician with over 30 years of experience. He received his MD degree from the University of Arizona College of Medicine. He established the nonprofit organization HOMES, Holistic Orphan Medical and Educational Services International. He also established the Kunming International Clinic in China's Yunnan province. And we're so glad to have Dr. Tannous here as our pediatrician at Herald Christian Health Center.
El persona que va a dar la presentación hoy es una pediatra de aquí de Herald Christian Health Center que tiene más de 30 años de experiencia. Él fue facultad de la medicina de la Universidad de Arizona, donde recibió su título de médico. Y él también estableció un internacional servicios médicos de allá en la provincia china de Yunnan. Y él es pediatra aquí de Herald Christian Health Center.
And we welcome Dr. Tannous. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Alice. Is this okay right here? All right. Diana and Alice, thank you very much. And welcome to today's workshop. We're going to be talking about developmental milestones, ways to encourage a child's development. We'll also talk about some of the methods that we use for developmental screening. And at the end, we'll have some resources for parents and some time for Q&A.
La agenda de hoy vamos a hablar de los hitos de desarrollo de edades 0 a 5 años. Vamos a hablar de las formas de apoyar el desarrollo de un niño y la evaluación temprana de desarrollo. Y después vamos a ver unos recursos para padres y al final de este taller vamos a hacer unas preguntas y respuestas.
Okay, so important basics to remember is that each child develops and learns at their own pace. I really try to emphasize to parents not to compare with other children, because I'll hear, you know, my neighbor's child is already walking, my child's not walking, or my neighbor's child has 8 teeth, my child only has 2. What's going on? So we try to avoid comparison.
Okay, entonces, ¿qué son los hitos de desarrollo? El doctor aquí dice que cada niño se desarrolla y aprende en su propio ritmo. Significa que es muy importante que no trata de comparar a su hijo a otros niños, porque todos los niños pues aprenden en su propia manera.
That's all right. That's perfect. Okay. Great. One of the issues, why do we talk about development? Development's important because if a child is developing, or more importantly, not developing at a rapid pace, that could be an indication that there may be an illness or more problems. So if you think, maybe my child is not developing as they should, that's when we encourage you to see your pediatrician or your basic doctor.
El doctor dice que es muy importante que si usted ve que su niño hay como una problema con él, es muy importante que hablar con ese problema a su doctor, porque puede ser un problema más grave que lo que puede ser.
Okay, and just like with children, we'll begin at the beginning. The 0 to 3 month age, you might not think there's not much going on, but there's actually a lot going on at that time. What we want to see for these infants between newborn and the first couple of months is they're responsive to sounds. They actually are recognizing sounds. These children recognize the sound of their mother's voice. Of course, they've heard their mother's voice from inside for months, and now they're hearing it from the outside, and that's reassuring to the infants. They will also react to loud noises. You'll see the children startle with a loud noise. It's kind of disturbing to look at, but it does tell you that the child's hearing is normal because they respond and they may even shudder when they hear a loud noise. And they also should be making their own noises like gurgling and cooing. And we want children to be starting to smile. Towards the end of that 2 to 3 month period, we always ask, is your child looking at your face and smiling? The child should be able to begin to recognize the mother, the father, familiar caregivers, grandparents, and have a responsive smile. And we want them watching you. That's actually a very key point, is making eye contact. Infants, they don't have a very long visual field, but they can see up close. And so when they're looking at someone up close, we want them making eye contact. We'd like to see them smiling, especially when it's one of the parents. For the next 3 months, for the 3 to 6 month period, we will check children. As you can see in the photograph, when they're doing tummy time, which is really a critical exercise, and we can talk about that later, the child should be holding their head up. So a couple things there. One is it's muscular development. They're strong enough to hold their head up, but also they're aware of their surroundings. They're investigating their surroundings by looking for familiar people and looking around, exploring their environment. And they'll push up on their elbows and forearms. They'll hold a toy. They'll grasp and rake for a toy. And they'll start to make a little more complicated sounds, the cooing. And then the child also can recognize and react to change in the tone of voice of the parent. When someone is angry or someone is comforting them, the child will react to the tone of voice. So for those first 0 to 6 months, it may not seem like much is happening and people think, oh, those babies don't do much. They're actually doing a lot.
Okay, en los meses de 0 a 3 meses, cada niño puede reaccionar ante los ruidos fuertes. Entonces, se puede estar bien tembloroso porque si hay un ruido muy fuerte. También es muy importante que haga sonidos suaves y empieza a reír, te mire y reconoce a los padres. Aquí en esta fotografía puede ver que los niños el niño está en su panza y su cabeza está hacia adelante. A los meses 3 a 6 es muy importante que empuje hacia arriba sobre los codos y sostenga un juguete sobre la mano y empiece a emitir sonidos. Y los bebés en estos tiempos reaccionan ante un cambio de voz, como si estás enojada o estás temblorosa o si estás muy feliz, ellos pueden ver eso y pueden también reaccionar igual.
Some other things that we want to describe in ways to encourage your child's development, especially in these early, really critical first 6 months of life. Make sure you're hugging, cuddling, and kissing your baby. The babies respond to physical touch. It's really critical for their social development, for bonding with the mom and the dad. So be affectionate with your baby. Lots of holding, lots of cuddling. You can talk or sing to them. One of the things I lived in China for a long time, and I love to see the grandparents holding the child and walking around just naming things, just talking through the day with the child. And you may think to yourself, they don't understand. But they begin to understand, and just hearing the voice of a caregiver is excellent. So talk and sing to your child. I'm also a big proponent of routines. Children, infants, and children love routine, so they kind of know what's coming through the day. It doesn't have to be strict down to the minute, but a cadence and a pattern each day is so helpful. So you start, feeding and then changing and then a nap. You're trying to separate it. One thing we talk about is separating feeding from falling asleep. So this routine of I wake up, I eat, I get a diaper change, I get a bath, and then I go back to sleep. It's great. But routines are really good. And we realize that we live in an environment where we can't always control the routine. And so it doesn't have to be rigid, but you try to aim for as much routine as possible. It is very helpful in the baby's development. Also, responding to your baby's cries the right way. One thing you'll learn through the first few months is that babies' cries are not all the same. Sometimes a baby's crying because they're tired. That's one cry. Other times they may be wet or uncomfortable. Then there's the cry of illness, very different, the cry of pain. And then there's the cry of, I'm just mad. And parents begin to learn that the cries don't always mean the same thing. And one thing I like to encourage as a pediatrician, crying is okay. Crying is okay. We have a big banner here to avoid secondhand smoke. It's hard to emphasize that heavily enough. Children who are exposed to secondhand smoke, whether that's in the home or in the car, don't forget that smoking in the car is not helpful either. I should also encourage cigarette smoke and vaping. Both of these can be very damaging to the lungs, especially a developing infant. So ask people to not smoke or vape near your child. We know that children who are exposed to secondhand smoke develop more respiratory illnesses, more allergies, more sickness, and vaping is now being shown to cause some very serious lung damage, especially in adolescents.
Hay muchas formas de apoyar el desarrollo para los niños 0 a 6 meses. Es muy importante abrazar y besar a su bebé. El doctor aquí compartió que él vivió en China y él vio que los papás andan abrazando a su hijo y andan como besándolo y andan ser muy afectuosos con el niño. Las rutinas es muy, muy importante para las formas de apoyar, porque es establecer rutinas para cambiar el bebé o tomar una siesta o bañarlo para que el bebé sepa cuando cuando él siente es la manera propia para hacer eso. El llanto de su bebé es muy importante también, porque el llanto puede decir muchas cosas. El llanto puede decir que tiene hambre, el llanto puede decir que tiene sueño o que ya se hizo del baño. Y es muy, muy importante que a evitar el humo de segunda mano, porque los pulmones de su bebé aún están desarrollando. Y es muy importante que las personas no fumen ni beban cerca de su bebé, ni en su casa, ni en el carro, nada cerca del bebé. Si lo quieres hacer, es muy importante hacerlo en una manera que no es riesgoso para sus bebés.
All right, now we're moving on to the latter half of the first year of age. By 6 months of age, we do like to see that the children can roll over. Now, this may sound strange, but we actually, if some people have said, oh, my baby's only 2 months old and they rolled over, that's actually not such a good thing. And if that's happening frequently, you should see your pediatrician about that. But about 6 months, we want to make sure that kids can roll over. In order to do that, they're going to need some tummy time and the opportunity to roll over. So make sure that your children get some time on their belly with the opportunity to push up and begin to roll over. Also, in that 6 to 9 month range, we'd like to see the children start to respond when their name is called and they can understand. Please, please, please do not underestimate the ability of children to understand. They can understand simple words like no, bye-bye, and bottle. And they begin to babble a little more, like saying dada and mama, very simple words. And at this time, they may get their first teeth, but not always. Teeth are very random, the eruption of teeth. I've had a couple babies born with teeth, That's pretty unusual, but it happens. And then some babies don't get teeth till after they're a year of age. So there's a wide range, and that can be normal. Now, in this 9 to 12 month age range, we want to see children sitting without support. Everyone kind of gets locked into, when did your child begin to walk? Walking is important, yes, but we actually really key into when your child can sit independently. We want children sitting very well at about 6 months of age. And by 9 months of age, definitely they should be able to sit, get to a sitting position with no support, with no help, and have good head control and get to a sitting position. Sitting is really critical. They should be crawling, and about somewhere between 9 to 12 months, we like to see children beginning to stand. And what they do is they'll grab onto something and pull themselves up. We call it cruising. So they're not walking independently, but they're grabbing an object, pulling to a stand, and able to bear some weight on their legs. And that's really good for 9 to 12 months. Also, they should be repeating single words, closer to 12 months, and repeating animal sounds. What does the cow say? What does the dog say? What does the cat say? And those simple sounds, it's a lot of fun, but it's also development for the children, and is really a helpful way to know that they're hearing correctly and also able to begin to speak. We want them to be able to point to toys or foods when asked. One thing we really like to see is pointing with either a finger or the hand to make their wants known. We like when children can make their wants known without crying through either pointing or usually it's just pointing or extending the hand, but a way to make their needs known without crying. Okay, they should be responding to soft and loud sounds. And the last thing on this slide is called object permanence. And that's really a key component of development. It happens at 9 months of age. Object permanence, let me explain it this way. Before a child has object permanence, as soon as they lose sight of something, they immediately forget. So for a 6-month-old, they love mom, but as soon as mom walks out and they don't see mom, they don't know that mom exists. That changes around the 8 to 9 month, or it should change about 8 to 9 months. And children they'll look for things like if a toy falls, they'll look for it because they realize it still exists. Even if I don't see it, it still exists. This also stands for mothers and parents. And when mom walks out, the kid cries because now they know mom's still out there somewhere and I want her. And so about 8 to 9 months, kids start to develop this object permanence, which means separation anxiety. Mom walks away, I want her back, I cry. One of the ways to get, it's an important developmental stage, but it's also frustrating for parents because, previously, I just had a mom the other day in the office. She said, I used to be able to put him down and walk away and it was fine. But now I put him down, I walk away and he cries. Why? Well, actually, it's a good sign. He's got normal development. He knows you still exist and he's crying for you to come back. That's called object permanence. But it's kind of a pain because they cry and separation anxiety. One thing that you can do to help with this is playing hide and go seek. It's a lot of fun, but it also helps develop this comforting within the child that just because I don't see mom doesn't mean I can't find mom. And so use other family members and play hide and seek around the house. It's a lot of fun, and it really helps the children to understand that just because they can't see someone doesn't mean the world is coming to an end. They can still find mom, still find dad, still find grandparents if they go look, and it really helps. But that object permanence is a very key developmental point.
Ok, en los niños de 6 a 9 meses es muy importante que se dé la vuelta, pero el doctor aquí recomienda si su bebé da la vuelta como en los primeros meses, eso significa algo que pues debes ver qué pasa con eso. En estos meses, a 6 a 9 meses, el niño puede responder a su nombre o puede mirarte cuando lo llamas. Ellos también comprenden palabras sencillas como no, adiós. Y en estos casos puedes decir botella o bibis. Am, También dice como palabras como mamá, dada, algo así, similar de donde el niño, cómo te ve a ustedes. Y también le salen sus primeros dientes, pero algunos casos no. El doctor aquí dice que él vio cuando un bebé nació y salieron todos los dientes. Entonces, eso es completamente normal, pero muy diferente para cada niño. En los 9 a 12 meses, esto es la tema que ya se puede sentar sin apoyo y ellos pueden gatear y pararse. Se pueden apoyar a un pared para pararse, pero no todo el tiempo. También puede repetir palabras sueltas y copiar sonidos de animales y enseñar juguetes. El doctor aquí dice que es muy importante que ellos co- en- en- enseñe con sus manos o con o con su dedo, es muy importante eso. También para responder a tantos sonidos suaves como fuertes. El objeto permanente, el doctor dice que él vio él vio una mamá que estaba muy preocupada porque su bebé siempre lloraba cuando ella se salió de la habitación. Pero él dice que es completamente normal porque su bebé ya siente a su presencia cuando no estás. Y eso es muy normal. Entonces no se preocupen de eso.
Okay, moving along, just to reiterate some of the 6 to 12 month things, ways that you can improve or help your child's development. Make sure they have a calm, safe place to play so that your baby can explore freely. Actually, what I encourage parents to do, because the kids are going mobile, remember, like 6 to 12 months, they're starting to crawl. I ask the parents to actually get down on their knees and crawl around, because you'll be amazed when your perspective changes. You see things that could perhaps be dangerous that you wouldn't see by standing up. You'll see outlets, electrical outlets that are uncovered, or wires that are hanging down, things that you wouldn't see from our perspective, but your baby crawling around will find those things from the floor perspective. So make a safe place to play, get down, crawl around, look for any unsafe objects. It's good to copy your baby and have them copy you. Those little games like patty cake, making faces, covering your eyes, those are all good. Again, talking, reading, singing, and playing with the baby is critical. And by talking and reading, I don't mean an iPad. Sorry, this should be a book and a live person's voice, not a recorded voice, not coming from a screen, but a real person. That's why reading an actual physical book is far better than them watching an iPad or a television screen. And when he does something you do not like, I encourage you to gently say no and move him or remove the object. But I do encourage parents to use the word no. Don't just, because I've had parents that don't want to say the word no. No is a very critical word for the child to understand for their own safety. So as you remove the object, say no and remove the object, or say no and remove the child. You can give them a brief, simple explanation just so they kind of hear it. But the important thing is that they know that there are limits, and that word no goes with the limits, and the children can understand that. As far as dental care, your baby should be getting some teeth from 6 to 12 months. Remember, not necessarily, but usually they'll get some teeth. And we ask that you use infant toothpaste. Actually, there's this nice product, Oragel makes the little toothbrush with the infant toothpaste that does not contain fluoride. Remember, they can't spit it out, so you do a little bit of non-fluoride toothpaste and you begin having them brush. Now, we just said on the one side, copying your baby and your baby copies you. I like to have, if children can watch their parents brush their teeth, it makes it a lot easier to begin introducing brushing the baby's teeth. Look, dad's brushing his teeth, you brush your teeth. Different toothpaste, smaller toothbrush, but a good way to have the child imitating you and introducing these skills.
Hay muchas formas para apoyar los niños de 6 a 12 meses. Es muy importante crear un lugar tranquilo y seguro para que su bebé pueda explorar liberamente. El doctor aquí dice que un consejo que él da es que los papás también se hincan con sus niños nomás para ver cómo es un bebé, cómo es su mundo del bebé. También es muy importante que copie a su bebé y deja que el bebé copie a usted. Hable, lea, canta y juega con el bebé. Ah, cuando haga algo que a usted no le gusta, es muy importante usar la palabra no. No es el doctor dice que la palabra no significa pues muchas cosas, pero primeramente ah, es, es una palabra muy importante para usar en su niño, pues. Y los primeros dientes de su bebé, el doctor aquí dice que en muchas formas es muy diferente para todos los bebés. Pero si sus bebés tienen dientes a estos meses, es muy importante que cepille los dientes de su bebé una vez al día con una pequeña cantidad de pasta sin flúor. Él recomienda una marca que se llama Orador que tiene la pasta y el cepillo de dientes. Y también dice que puede usted lavarse sus dientes con su bebé para que el bebé copie a usted cómo cómo se lava los dientes.
Okay, we're moving along to the first year of life after the first birthday. I guess that would be the second year of life. So between 12 to 18 months, again, this can be happening earlier, but as you'll see in the photo, pulling to a stand. So again, it's cruising, they'll grab an object, they'll pull to a stand, and this is when they'll stand independently and begin walking. So this is the toddler stage. This is, again, key development. Some kids walk earlier. I've had kids as early as 9 months begin to walk. Some walk as late as 15 months. Remember, there is a range of normal, and try not to compare, but usually it's shortly after a year of age that kids begin to take their first steps. They'll also start to pick things up between their thumb and their pointer finger, a fine pincher grasp. This is when the use of Cheerios or little goldfish is kind of a fun little snack for them. Also, we ask that you introduce a cup so they can begin to drink from a cup. Again, this is kind of a chance for them to imitate mom and dad. You drink out of a cup, they can drink out of their cup. There's a wide array of sippy, no spill cups now, but we want to move away from the bottle towards the cup in this age range. The child should be responding to their own name being called and should be able to follow simple directions like get the ball, wave bye-bye, lay down, simple instructions. And they begin to use more words, mom, dad, don't want, simple things like that. And especially towards the end, they'll combine a little more, the two words asking for more. But this next one of indicating by pointing, it's really key. A key point in language development is the use of fingers to point to wants instead of crying, to be able to communicate through pointing, through visual clues is really key. And they should start giving hugs and showing affection. In addition to that, they'll actually be able to read the parents' facial expressions to know if a situation is a happy situation or a dangerous situation. They begin to read parents' emotional expressions, and the children begin to also express their own emotions.
Ok, en este tema es 12 a 18 meses y este es después del primer año de su hijo. Es muy importante en este tema que ellos se levantan para pararse y caminar y recoger las cosas entre sus dedos. También es importante beber de la taza. Como padre, tú puedes enseñar cómo se levanta una taza para tomar agua. Ellos pueden responder a su propio nombre cuando le llaman. Seguir instrucciones sencillas como recoge la pelota o recoge la fruta que se cayó, cosas así. Es muy importante que ellos también utilicen 4 a 10 palabras y combine 2 palabras, como más leche o quiero comer. Es muy importante que indique sus deseos señalados, entonces lo que ellos quieren, como si ellos quieren más fruta, puede decir que puede enseñar qué fruta el niño quiere. Y en este tema es muy importante que los niños también demuestran cariño en pasos como abrazos o unos besitos en el cachete de su papá, algo así.
Okay, during this time frame, there's some excellent ways that you can actually encourage your child's development and help it to improve. We do ask that you have your babies take their, or your child have their first dental visit. Our dentists here at Herald Christian Health Center are quite good and willing to see little guys. Again, modeling brushing teeth twice a day with a little smear of a fluoride toothpaste. Now you can begin to use a little bit of fluoride and encourage the children to spit. A lot of times they really like that part of it. But brushing teeth twice a day. And again, if you brush with the children, that's a great way to do it twice a day and have them, and you're modeling good dental hygiene.
Después del primer año del bebé, es muy importante que también visite su primer visita al dentista. Y es importante cepillar los dientes con su bebé 2 veces al día con una pequeña cantidad de pasta dental de flúor. Es muy importante que el bebé escupe esta pasta y también es importante que el papá también enseñe cómo se escupe la pasta para que no se lo mete adentro.
Okay, helping your child's language. Again, this is really key for their intellectual development. Talk, read, and sing to your child whenever you're together. And again, some of this is just as a parent being very present. When you're talking, when you're reading a book or singing with your child, you have to be there in person. A tablet, a computer screen, a television screen is not a substitute for a live caregiver engaging with the child, talking, reading, and singing together. The child, you can ask the questions like, where's the ball? You know, where's dad? You're playing hide and go seek. Very simple questions can be very, very helpful. And encourage your child to use their words. Again, we're talking about reading to him or her every day. You will read the same books over and over. It's okay. What's kind of funny though, as you're reading those same books over and over, if you skip a page, they know it and they'll make you go back and read that page again. It's like, you're not fooling me. You may want to go to bed, but you're reading the whole book. So I think at our house, I think we read Goodnight Moon like hundreds of times. Goodnight Moon. Use names again for everyday objects like toys and clothes. This is a chance for you to point to objects and name them. So healthy to be naming simple objects to increase your child's vocabulary and their language development. As you see on the bottom, if your child is not using words at 16 months or short 2-word phrases at 2 years, we ask you to talk to us about that. And by 2-word phrases, go home, want more, you know, in Chinese, 回家, you know, it's just like, 不要, I don't want, give me more. Those simple couplets are key. And you can remember that at age 2, you should be using these 2-word couplets.
Formas para apoyar a su niño después de su primer año es que hable, lea y canta con su niño cuando estén juntos. Haga preguntas haga preguntas como ¿dónde está la pelota? O ¿dónde está la fruta? Y anime a su hijo a responder con palabras. Es importante que lee con su niño todos los días y lee sus libros favoritos una y otra vez. Y utilice los nombres de objetos cotidianos como juguetes, ropas, animales o otra vez fruta. Si su hijo no usa las palabras a los 16 meses o frases de 2 años, es muy importante hablar con su médico.
So I think I've touched on this a couple of times already, but in this 12 to 18-month period, I really emphasize parents limit videos, video games, and television for exposure to the child. It's also, I think, it's also something for the parents as well. When you're with the child, be fully with your child and put the tablets and the screen time away. Babies and toddlers who want to play with smartphones and tablets, they actually start to talk later. I just had a child the other day with expressive speech delay because they're just seeing a lot of screen time and they're not engaging with conversation with a live person. So I really do feel like a lot of screen time will delay language development, especially expressive language development. There's other issues with a lot of screen time, but be present. As they get older, yeah, they can do some screen time, but especially at the 12, these early years, these first couple years, don't use the phone, the television as a way of babysitting or to stop crying. It actually can be detrimental to their language development. Okay. And so we ask that children younger than 18 months of age not use phones or tablets or watch television. Instead, give them a real book, and better yet, give them a real person.
Ok, es muy importante que después del primer año limitar videos, videojuegos y televisión. Los bebés y niños pequeños que juegan con sus teléfonos y tabletas pueden empezar a hablar más tarde. El doctor aquí vio un caso que es verdad, que el niño empezó a hablar más tarde. Los médicos aconsejan que los niños menores de 18 meses no utilicen teléfonos ni tabletas ni miren televisión. Es muy importante leer con su hijo o haga rompecabezas o juega afuera y más bien limite el screen time de su niño porque tampoco es muy bien que ellos vean un tablet y no una persona como usted.
Ways to support early development. Remember bedtime, we talked about routines. Routines are really key. And sometime between 1 and 2 years of age, toddlers, they no longer need a morning and afternoon nap. They can probably just drop to one afternoon nap. That can be a tough transition. That's okay. It's understandable. It can be a little difficult when they start dropping the nap. They can be a little bit crabby and cranky. Be ready for that. But at some point, they are going to need to drop the morning nap. Watch and see when they get sleepy. And we really encourage parents to set an actual bedtime. And not just a bedtime, but a bedtime routine. So the routine is like we take a bath, we brush teeth, we read your favorite story for the 100th time, and then we tuck in and we go to sleep. A lot of sleep issues with children can be limited. You're going to have some sleep issues sometimes, but you can make those better by a set routine. If the children know what's coming, they do so much better. It's like, oh, I mean, in fact, they'll start to get sleepy. It almost like programs them. It's like, I'm taking my bath, then I know I'm going to brush my teeth, then I know I'm going to get a book, and by then I know I'm going to bed, and it just flows very nicely. But you have to set that routine ahead of time and try to, you're not enslaved to the routine, but you try to make it as routine as possible for the child's health. If your child cries, comfort him. You can go in and you can pat him, but we encourage you not to turn on the light. A key skill is the ability to self-comfort. That's probably the topic for another long talk, but the ability to self-comfort is huge, and for children to go back to sleep. But the importance of routine, and also not just routine, but the same bed time, the same bed or sleeping area each time, helps that become rote and encourages good sleep.
Después del primer año es muy importante tener una rutina a la hora de dormir. En algún momento entre el año y los 2 años, los niños pequeños dejan de necesitar 2 siestas por día. Entonces su hijo puede bajar gradualmente a una siesta por día. Y usted puede observar cuándo tiene sueño, en qué hora tiene sueño y en qué hora se va a acostar. Es muy importante tener una rutina a la hora de acostarse, como bañarse, cepillar los dientes, contarle su cuento favorito y acostarse, y luego usted sale de la habitación. Si llora, consuelo, pero el doctor dice que no intentar encender la luz ni levantarlo, porque eso también enseña que usted va a estar ahí cada vez que se quede dormir.
Okay, we're moving on towards the latter half of the second year. These children from 1.5 to 2 years of age, they begin to run, walk up steps, kick balls. They also fall down a lot. So just, be ready for that. They're going to be falling. We don't call it toddlers for nothing. They toddle, and accidents do happen. They should be using a spoon with minimal spills, but that's good for them to develop those fine motor skills of being able to use a spoon with cereals or simple things that they can eat. And again, they're going to be copying parents, and they'll be copying other children. So we always say, you're always setting an example. It may be a bad example, but you're always setting an example. And your kids are watching you to see what you do, and they'll follow your example. Again, continue to point to people, to toys, to body parts, and, asking the child what they can name. We'd like them to be able to name various body parts by 2 years of age, and they can start to help with things. They can help carry things for you. You're giving them light things, but that helps develop self-esteem and the child's role in a family, not just everything done for them, but they can begin to help. A 2-year-old can pick up a light waste bin and help pick up the trash. That's a good thing. The 2-year-old can help put away toys. Those are good responsibilities that the child can do, develop self-esteem, and also that they don't get used to having everything done for them.
Ya vamos a hablar de los niños de 18 a 24 meses. En este tema, los niños pueden correr, subir escalones y patear una pelota. El doctor dice que en este tema los niños se pueden caer, en cada condición. Es muy importante que use una cuchara con hermantes mínimos, como cuando come cereal, cuando come sopita. Y es muy importante que también copiar a los padres y a otros niños. Señale personas como juguetes y partes del cuerpo cuando se les solicite, y ayuda con tareas simples como levantar sus propios juegos o tirar la basura. Algo mínimo, pero sí unas tareas simples, nomás para que ellos sepan que ya no le vas a hacer completamente todo para el niño.
Okay, some more ways to improve your child's development. Spending time together. There's no substitute for spending time together. Sit with your child. And again, I really emphasize to parents, when you're with the child, put your cell phone away and be fully present. It's hard to see families sitting together at a restaurant. So they're together, sort of, but everyone's on a phone and the kid's on a tablet. They're together, but they're actually not together. So be together, be present, full attention, try to make eye contact and look face to face with your child. This will help them not only learn good social skills, but help them learn to talk and how to shape words with their mouths. Play and be active. You can do sand, pouring sand from one container to another. If you don't like sand, some people use rice that's been colored, and that's kind of fun, pouring rice from one container to another. Little cups, actually. I brought little cups that I always use in my developmental evaluations. Those are great, fun toys. You can dance, If you can dance, I can't dance, but you can dance if you can dance. Painting, finger painting, these are fun things you can do together with your child. And remember, lots of affection, lots of hugs, and this will help them develop a sense of security and know that they are truly loved.
Formas para apoyar a los niños de 18 a 24 meses y pasar mucho tiempo juntos. Tómese el tiempo para sentarse cerca de su hijo y prestarle toda la atención. Significa que no use su teléfono en estas formas y mírele a la cara cuando hables. Esto le ayuda a aprender a hablar al niño. Y juega y será activo con él. Por ejemplo, ordenar por color, bailar, pintar con los dedos. El doctor aquí dice que también puedes pintar arroz, diferentes tipos de arroz, y el niño lo puede jugar así. Y es muy importante en este tema que abrace a su hijo con frecuencia. Hasta esto le hace sentir más amado y cariñado.
Okay, we're moving on to some very fun years, 2 to 3 years of age. Children, I think at this age are actually a lot of fun, very entertaining. One of the things we do in our developmental stages here is I have a ball that we learn, see if kids can play catch. They learn to throw. I could tell you some stories. My son learning to throw. From personal experience, I recommend that you not use golf balls. That's a bad thing. But softer, larger balls, they can learn to kick, can learn to catch. This is good for gross motor, fine motor skills, and it's fun. Notice and comfort others the children can notice others and comfort others who are hurt or sad. They begin to have a finer sense of emotions, their own emotions, and also the social skill of picking up on the emotions of others. They should be playing with other children. Sometimes that's side by side. Sometimes that's engaging. You can begin to ask these more, more nuanced, more sophisticated questions like who, what, where, why questions. Where's mom? Where's dad? Where's your nose? Where's your belly button? These are good things to be asking your children. They should know their colors. Again, my developmental cups that I have, I like to use the primary colors so the kids learn basic colors. That's a good thing to know. And they can follow two-step directions. Actually, one of the things I do with the cups is I'll put the cups out and I'll say, tell me the color of the smallest cup. So they need to know which one is smallest and they need to know their colors. So those, it's a little more nuanced, a little finer tool to test their development, but kids can do that. They can do two directions. Like, I want you to take the ball, kick it, then pick it up and give it back to me. They can understand these simple directions at the 2 to 3 year range.
En los años 2 a 3 años, el doctor aquí dice que esos son los años más divertidos de la vida de un niño pequeño. En este tema, ellos pueden atrapar una pelota grande, observar y consolar a otros que estén heridos o tristes, como abrazar a un amigo o abrazar a su mamá, abrazar a su papá. Ellos ya pueden jugar con otros niños, hacer preguntas de quién, qué, dónde, por qué, como dónde está mi mamá, dónde está mi papá. Los niños saben colores como colores básicos, como el amarillo, el azul, el rojo. Y ellos pueden también seguir instrucciones de 2 pasos, como recoge esa pelota y ponle sobre la mesa. O me puedes dar la fruta que está en la mesa.
Ways that you can improve and support their development. Make sure that you're playing together. Again, the soft ball, you can roll it back and forth. They can practice kicking it. I like them building towers with blocks or cups. There's a lot of products out there to build towers. The kids love knocking them down and then build them up again. You can do drawing, simple drawing. Actually, at 2 to 3 years of age, we like children to be able to draw a simple circle and maybe potentially a cross at 3 years of age. So those are simple things. They don't have a mature pencil grip, but they should be able to do some simple drawing with a crayon or a pencil. You can do simple puzzles. and encourage your child to use their imagination. You can pretend, they can pretend that they're animals. You can have parties with stuffed animals. My girls always had, tea parties with their stuffed animals. And then my son always wanted to pretend to be a skunk. That's just, he always wanted to be a skunk. So he'd pretend to be a skunk. So that's kind of fun.
Formas de apoyar el desarrollo de niños 2 a 3 años es jugar juntos. Lanzar una pelota sobre un lado al otro. Practica patear una pelota como de soccer o de básquetbol. Construir torres con bloques, desbrujar juntos. También es muy importante que anime a su hijo a usar su imaginación como fiestas de té o ellos también pueden ser como animales, diferentes tipos de animales. Es para que su imaginación esté corriendo y estén viendo muchas diferentes cosas.
Okay, more ways to help your child learn. Make sure they get outside. Vitamin D is always good. Fortunately, we live in California where kids can usually get outside and get some sunshine and get some socialization with other children their age. They still need supervision, but it's good to have time to play, play dates with other kids. Make sure you're talking, reading, singing, telling stories. Again, lots of books. I just listened to a study that one of the indications of children who succeeded later in life, one of the indications they lived in a household with a lot of books. So lots of books for kids to look at and read, and make sure that they can see your face again so they can read emotions and expressions. Use very simple words to explain how things work. You don't have to get too complicated, and ask questions that require more than just yes or no. Can you tell me about what color? Can you tell me where you went today? Simple questions like that. And then you want them to work through some problems. Oh, just finally working through problems. One of the developmental things I like to do with the cups is I'll ask the children to put the cups inside each other. So they unstack them and then restack them. And when they're trying to cram one of the big cups in the small cup, don't solve it for them. Let them try to figure that out. Like, okay, that doesn't fit, but I know it's supposed to fit. Let them work through problem solving. This is very good for a toddler.
Formas para apoyar el desarrollo de los 2 a 3 años y es ayuda a tu hijo a aprender. Asegurarse de que su niño pequeño puede jugar con otros niños y jugar al aire libre. Hablen, lean y cantan y cuentan historias juntos. Su hijo aprende mucho más mejor cuando está cerca de usted y puede ver su cara. Cuando el niño puede ver su cara, puede ver sus emociones. Utilice palabras sencillas para explicar cómo funcionan las cosas. Haga preguntas que recuerden más que respuestas de sí o no. Y deje que su niño resuelva los problemas antes de ofrecerle ayuda, como cuando su hijo anda jugando con bloques y, y no encuentra la forma de hacerlo. Es muy importante que ellos primero resuelvan los problemas cuando ellos puedan y luego ustedes le ayuden.
Okay, we're moving on to 3 to 5 years of age. These kids can jump, hop on one foot. They can also go upstairs, alternating feet. They can begin to dress themselves. Key point, I know some older kids that have never been told to dress themselves. I mean, you kind of have to help them, but give them an opportunity to dress themselves. Maybe not pick out the clothes, but at least try to dress themselves. Keep conversations going back and forth, and they should begin to know numbers and letters by then. Simple numbers and letters. And they should be able to pay attention for 5 to 10 minutes during activities, and not just watching a video, but doing something else for 5 to 10 minutes. This is a great time to give them small chores to do, helping set the table, just taking out the trash, simple skills for the kids.
Y ya vamos a hablar de los niños de 3 a 5 años. En este tema es muy importante que ellos salten sobre un pie, ponerse algo de ropa solo, Obviamente no cambiarse solo, pero es la primera fase que ellos pueden ponerse su ropa sola, como sus pantalones o una chaqueta. Mantenga una conversación con más de 3 intercambios de ida y vuelta. Saber números y letras y presentan atención durante 5 a 10 minutos durante las actividades.
Okay. Begin to use blocks, big puzzles, and other toys that are age appropriate to teach children letters and numbers. Begin to sing the alphabet song. They love the alphabet song, counting songs, read and talk about stories. So don't just read the book, but you can ask questions about the story you just read. Or it's amazing, you know, after they've read Goodnight Moon 100 times, they can read the story to you. Even if they can't read, they can tell you the story. So books are great. Pretend play. When your child asks you to pretend, join in with them. Also talk about what happened during the day. This is a great time to review what happened during the day, and they can learn to get along with others. In our family, we do the 3 goods and a bad every night. You have to say 3 good things that happened to you that day. You're allowed to complain about one thing, only one thing. But again, it helps kids talk about their day and express their feelings through the day, and also to feel valued and heard.
Formas para apoyar un niño de 3 a 5 años es ayuda a tu hijo o hija a aprender. Utilice bloques, rompecabezas grandes y otros juguetes para enseñar letras y números. Es importante que canten juntos el alfabeto y canciones de números, y lea y hable sobre historias con ella, con su hijo. Utilice libros para hablar sobre temas difíciles, como el enojo o cómo compartir con otros, o la tristeza también. Hace al juego de simulación cuando su hijo se lo pide. Y es muy importante que usted hable con su hijo sobre lo que sucedió durante el día y ayúdalo a aprender y a llevarse bien con los demás. El doctor aquí le dio un consejo que hace con sus hijos, y es en la noche ellos hablan de 3 cosas que pasó bien en su día, y él le da una chance para que ellos den una cosa que no le gustaron durante el día. Es muy importante esto porque ellos dan el chance para decir lo que ellos quieren y lo que ellos se sintieron durante el día.
Okay. Yeah. And ways to encourage their support, encourage hands-on learning. Rather than being passive and watching TV, they can be involved in everyday tasks. Again, taking out the trash, setting the table, making a salad, safe things. You know, you're not going to give them the blender, but other than that, you know, encourage the children to engage in the activities you're doing. Do it with them. Go to interesting places. I mean, we live in Los Angeles. There's zoos, there's museums, there's parks, lots of fun places to go with kids, and help them to learn responsibility. Again, they can pick up their own toys. They can sort their laundry by color. It's a great way to learn colors and laundry, and set the table.
Formas para apoyar a su hijo es cómo aprender haciendo. Fomente el aprendizaje práctico en lugar de mirar televisión. Incluye a su hijo con tareas cotidianas como cocinar o limpiar su casa. Y lleva a sus hijos a lugares interesantes como museos para que ellos ven las personas ahí, o los zoológicos para que ellos puedan ver los animales, sus animales favoritos. Y ayudan a aprender a ser responsable. Por ejemplo, puede ayudar a recoger sus juguetes solo, o poner la mesa cuando ustedes ya van a comer, o ordenar su propia ropa.
So developmental screening. This is something that we actively do here at Herald Christian Health Center. It should be done by a healthcare provider. This could be a pediatrician, family practice doctor, a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, or even an early childhood teacher. But these are providers that are trained to do the developmental screenings. There's a lot of different tools that can be used, questionnaires, observation, blocks, cups. And what we're looking for is developmental milestones. We want to make sure that the kids are meeting the milestones. And that's not just, I want to emphasize that the reason we make development so important is not so that, oh, my child can excel and develop faster. It's more, the purpose of developmental screening is to make sure we're not missing problems, and problems such as cerebral palsy, speech delay, autism, diagnose those problems and identify them early so that we can have interventions. So we do developmental screenings. We actually start at 1 month of age. There's 9, 18, 30 months of age. Those are some of the key points, but we actually do developmental screenings at every well check. And so we're looking again, not so much that the children are excelling. I mean, that's great. More so, we don't want to see the kids are getting left behind. They're developing too late. When they're missing milestones, when they're delayed, that's when we become concerned and we want to have intervention and find out what's going on. Is there a problem? Is there a physical, emotional, intellectual problem that we can help with? So again, there's formal questionnaires and checklists. There's specific ones for development, gross motor, fine motor, social development, language development, screening for autism. I'm sorry, I apologize to the parents for all the questionnaires, but it really is very helpful in making sure that your child is doing the best they can.
Ya vamos a hablar de la evaluación del desarrollo. Los proveedores de atención, maestros de primera infancia o otro proveedor capacitado puede ser esta evaluación y es una evaluación para buscar hitos de desarrollo. El doctor dice que es muy importante buscar estos hitos de desarrollo para ver si su hijo no tiene autismo o otra condición más grande que lo que es. Estos se pueden ser, el doctor dice, en un mes, pero aquí dice 9, 18 a 30 meses de edad. Y es muy importante para ver si su hijo necesita más ayuda con el desarrollo o si se recomienda realizar más evaluaciones de desarrollo. Y básicamente esta evaluación son cuestionarios formales o listas de verificación basadas en investigaciones que hacen preguntas sobre el desarrollo de un niño. Incluye el lenguaje, el movimiento y el pensamiento, el comportamiento y las emociones. Es un cuestionario muy largo, pero es muy necesario para que el doctor pues puede ver si su hijo está en el bien camino o si ocupa más ayuda de los otros niños.
Okay, why is this screening important? We've kind of touched on this, but 1 in 6 children between 3 and 17 years of age have a developmental or behavioral disability. And this can include autism, learning disabilities, learning disorders such as dyslexia, ADHD. And when they have other delays like in language, it can really influence how well they do in school. It can also influence how well they make friends, and that can have huge ramifications as they get older. But so many kids, we don't see some of these developmental delays or issues till they're in school. So we are working very diligently here at Herald Christian to identify kids younger than 5, like before school age, to make sure they get the help they need to avoid problems later in school age and later in life.
Entonces, ¿por qué es importante la detección? En los Estados Unidos, aproximadamente una de cada seis niños de 3 a 17 años tiene una o más discapacidades del desarrollo o del comportamiento, como autismo, el trastorno de aprendizaje o un trastorno por déficit de atención. También el doctor tomó la tema que es también difícil para los niños hacer amigos con otros niños. Muchos niños tienen retrasos en el lenguaje o otras cosas o áreas que pueden afectar el desempeño de la escuela. Pero muchos niños con discapacidades de desarrollo no son identificados hasta que ya estén en la escuela. momento en que es posible que hayan producido retrasos importantes y se hayan perdido oportunidades de tratamiento. En otras palabras, es muy importante que sea una detección más cerca de cuando nacen para que hay más oportunidades de tratamiento que ya están en la escuela y no hay muchos.
Okay, so again, here at Herald Christian Health Center, we do have a childhood development screening program that we do for children ages 0 to 5. It's part of our routine healthcare. We're checking several tools that we use. It's a brief questionnaire to look for any problems, and then a brief examination to make sure that kids are developing normally. We also do some referral, make sure that they're getting the proper treatment. Perhaps a child has autism or a speech delay. Again, early intervention can make a huge difference for a lot of these children. But, you know, we're using simple things like just these cups, this ball, drawing on a piece of paper to identify delays early, because when you identify the delays early, it makes a bigger difference when you start therapy earlier. And if you want more information, there's a phone number there and a website.
Hay aquí en esta clínica un programa gratuito de evaluación de desarrollo de la primera infancia. Este programa es para niños de 0 a 5 años y es un examen de desarrollo gratuito, que es unos cuestionarios, entonces unas preguntas de su niño y también un examen física. Y también hay tratamiento y referencia de recursos. Si usted si usted está interesado, puede contactar con nosotros para más información. Aquí está el teléfono y también el correo electrónico.